Hello, everyone. It's Detelina and Walter. You saw us last year when we were reviewing reInvent, and because we couldn't get enough of it, because for Walter, it's talking about technology, something that he's very keen about. For me, it's not taking care of my children, something I also very much enjoy. And we decided let's do this as a weekly thing where we just review cloud and technology news and have our opinionated views on them and discuss them with guests. So today we have Marty and Robin from HeleCloud. I'll let them introduce themselves. Marty, you can go on first.
Yeah, hi, Marty Legg. Good morning, everyone. I head up HeleCloud from a sales and marketing perspective.
That's it. Just...
Yeah. Well, if you want to know more, you can Google him.
Yeah, that's the 10-second version. You don't want me to do the longer version because we wouldn't have a podcast.
Well, very good for setting the example, Marty. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Robin, and I'm heading up the HeleCloud business in the Benelux region.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, so we'll keep the introductions short. We want to speak our minds through the conversation rather than through titles and hoo-has about what we do. So I think that's important. So what we'll do every week is kind of go through some of the news, some of the articles that were in the news this week, and kind of discuss them and based on that, have a discussion and see where it goes from there. The first article I would like to talk about, because it's kind of a hot topic also outside of tech, is the fact that Amazon booted Parlor, or actually, let's take that a little bit wider. Parlor, a social network that instantly became everybody's not best friend after the attack on the U.S. Capitol. And they got booted off of pretty much everything that they wanted to, or they were on. And part of that was that they got a 24-hour notice to get kicked off of Amazon. Technically, I was reading a discussion about it yesterday. Technically, they are suspended and not terminated. But there's a quick lawsuit running right now to see if this is legal, which it entirely is, because this is in Amazon's terms and services. But it's interesting for me because what we're looking at is a customer who through no choice of their own, other than doing illegal stuff, which is obviously a completely valid reason, has to offboard from AWS. And one of the things I'm already seeing is questions around what this means for other customers. And my personal take on it is that it won't really affect other customers unless you're doing illegal stuff and inciting hate and violence, in which case I have very little pity for you, to be honest. But it leads to an interesting discussion on should this be something that a company is worried about getting booted off a platform.
Well, I read the article too. Probably there's more to it, because, well, the public opinion that's being set down now is that, well, Amazon and all the other tech companies throw Parlor away, well, 100% connected to the capital problems. But if I understand correctly, they got more warnings in the past that they should do something about, well, the way they're, I don't know how you call it, but that they govern the content on their platform. And if I read it correctly, they got more warnings. So, well, I don't really feel sorry for them if they don't do their utmost best to avoid all kind of violent words, or I don't know, people make a lot of fuss on that leads to, well, violent or other things. Then, well, everybody has a right to his own problems, especially also Parlor in this case.
Yeah, but I mean, they're responsible for moderating the user-generated content, right? Because that's what it is. It's user-generated content is creating their problem. I don't necessarily, I don't know anything about the leadership of Parlor, but that's not the real issue here. The real issue is the user-generated content that is spreading all these hate and violent messages. And that is, for me, the interesting part is that finally we're seeing big companies that are mostly staying apolitical take a stance against these things. We had not too long ago. We had in a related topic. We had Visa and MasterCard tell Pornhub that they would stop services because there was too much content on those sites, and it finally, by taking that stand within a few days, all of a sudden they had removed something like 60% of their content, which I think is a really good thing, because these tech companies have this power, and I think it's much more the power that these tech companies have than the power that the politics or legal laws necessarily have here.
I think what makes this big news is that it's so controversial. Like I constantly feel as if I live in a bubble where I think that everyone understands things the way that I do, but I happen to have a few acquaintances who are actually pro-Trump, and their reaction to what happened at the Capitol was fake news, fake president. This is bullshit, and so forth. So I think what makes this really big is that Amazon took this version rather than the other one.
Yeah, and that makes it a little bit political.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a slightly slippery slope when individuals and individual companies can have as much power as they do now in terms of controlling, the voices. And I actually question whether or not it will suppress any of those voices. I don't believe that it will, because it's a bit like pirate content. It just finds another way to do its way. So whilst Parlor or Amazon, maybe from a business in one aspect, seems a little bit cleansed of it, I don't think it goes away. I think, and if anything, it may go into sort of underground voices, which then you lose some of the control on it.
Yeah, maybe that's even more dangerous.
That's exactly.
But it's a fine line between giving it a stage whereby you enable it and suppressing it and then hoping that it will go away, which is also not the case. The reality will lie somewhere in between. These people's opinions won't necessarily change, but enabling them to have technology that reinforces their opinions against each other and riles up those voices is also not what we should be doing. So
like
it's somewhere in the middle. For instance.
Yeah.
To move on to a slightly less political topic, because I think that this one you can immediately philosophize for an hour on it. There was an interesting Twitter thread by Hemant Mohapatra, who was an early employee at Google Cloud, and he outlines in a series of tweets quite a nice story on what happened at Google Cloud, because ultimately they had superior technology earlier than the other cloud providers, and still they came out third in this game, and now they're in a position where I don't necessarily think they will be able to catch up with Amazon and
Microsoft
and Azure. And so I think it's quite interesting to take a quick look at how having great technology is definitely a pro. Without great technology, you're not going to get there. But the business implementation of the whole thing is equally important. The go-to-market almost trumps. If you have really good technology and then you fail to tell anyone about it, then you're still going to be nowhere.
Yep.
And
Sales and marketing are I think it gives me a little bit more power and influence. That's good. It's an interesting one. Look, history is dotted with organizations that had better tech, but it wasn't able to articulate that story as well in the marketplace. And I think that is going to continue. I think even more so, it seems today, that you have to have, while tech is important, it's how the user's experience is that's crucial.
Yeah. Maybe let me start by saying that I like the self-criticism of this guy to put it on Twitter and share his experience. But next to that, I agree with Marty. I think that's something that's been going on for a couple of years. The importance of tech or IT, whatever you call it, it's getting more important. So what you also see that the people involved from a customer perspective are changing. For example, if you looked at the Benelux region, we are a little bit strange, especially in Netherlands, where you see that Microsoft is really the leading cloud, where I guess AWS, is the leading cloud probably from a technology perspective. We do think that. Also, Gartner thinks that. But the difference in market share is quite big, and I think that has to do that AWS is just yet picking up the real go-to-market, and I think they are known in the early days as the techie development cloud, things like that. But it's the decision-making power on cloud is moving to the CXO level. So, and they don't want to talk techie; they want to talk about business outcome and things like that. And that's probably also something that AWS should work on. Well, in the Netherlands region, but that's again where I'm focusing on. I think it's what Marty says. If you can have the best technology, but if your business value story isn't the best one, you're not going to win the game.
It's interesting, right? Because for me, as a technologist, I really like and admire Amazon's approach, which is always put the customer first and think from the customer's perspective. Even if it means in the short term less necessarily AWS revenue, because it will reflect back good. Whereas the Microsoft game is much more on the sales and relationship side. And so to give an anecdote, we have one customer in the Netherlands who happens to be on both Azure as well as AWS. And when I talk to the people there, you see very clearly that the way they are experiencing this is that they see it's a large company, and they see an army of Microsoft people that are building relations with all the teams there that are on the work floor. They are not technical. They don't have any specific interest in what that company is doing. They are simply there to build the sales relationships. Whereas if you look at what Amazon is doing, they have a dedicated account team for that customer, where that is there to help them make the best use of the cloud, and that is their sales path. And it's almost a 180 degree different approach to trying to achieve the same thing.
Yeah, but I do think that what Marty was just saying, that sales and marketing is important. There are two sides of this story. Yeah? So I think your go-to-market is an important one, but I also think that the customers, because IT is getting much more strategic asset, they also become a little bit, they become much more technical and digital than we probably were used to. So that also means that the salespeople, I think if you have the perfect balance of, the right business-driven go-to-market, but also have technical skills within your sales team, I think then you can really have the right conversation with your customer, how this cloud can really benefit the business the best. And I think there is where Amazon is really, from that perspective, I think is doing, really the right thing, because you need to have technical skills to have a good conversation with your customers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm just fearful that the other way is for many customers a very quick way, because what you see is that, especially with this whole Corona thing, people are backed into a corner and having to move to cloud very quickly.
Yep.
And then it becomes somehow a decision based on the fact that there's already legal agreements with Microsoft in place. So just adding another line item for Azure spend is easier than going through that process again with AWS. And I think that's absolutely a short-sighted way to approach the problem, but it is also the reality on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah. You're probably going to. I think you do see two phases in that the coronavirus piece, which is you've got survive, which is I just need to get through this challenge, and then you've got sort of thrive, where people are recognizing that they have to take a much more strategic approach. And I think that second phase is now upon us, where people have realized being able to get through the first phase. Now they need to look at it closely to say, well, actually, what is the model that we need to use to have a much more agile business? That I think is changing.
Yeah, I mean, that's very clearly, we can see it very clearly at HeleCloud, right? So after the Corona started hitting, things got a little slow, and then over the summer it picked up, and by the end of the year we're doing record months. And for me personally, it felt really strange because I'm talking to my neighbors here who are all struggling, and I'm working for a company that cannot couldn't be doing better if they wanted to. It's really quite interesting how that is so out of band with what the rest of the world is experiencing.
Yeah,
I have to say that from a managed services perspective, I've always felt that people were quick to adopt the cloud, and then when they actually start using it, they discover a lot of things that they need to change, either in their applications or in the way that they're running things. And I used to joke that the professional services engagement, where we create the architecture for the customer, it's like a fling, a short relationship where you sort of have an idea about what you want, and you get what you think you want, and then when you start using it after months and months, you're into the long-term relationship with managed services, where it's a constant, continuous improvement, so that you can adapt your application and your teams to everything that's cloud, the dynamics, the immutability, and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were having a conversation earlier this week with Martin and Robin, where for a customer that, or what we see, and this is not unique to that customer. I see customers that are thinking they just need skills to survive a gap in knowledge. But then actually there's quite a bit more involved, because changing your business to a cloud-first one, or even to a cloud-enabled one, is kind of a big challenge. And I've been seeing, especially over the last 6 months, an increase in customers that are really struggling with this. They thought they would just hire a few cloud consultants and get done with the problem, but turns out there's a little bit more to it.
yeah, definitely.
We've seen an increase of managed services customers using experts as a service, so that you not just get the support team in the face of managed services taking care of the infrastructure, but you also get an expert who's mentoring and coaching the team internally how to better make benefit of the cloud, and how to change their ways so that they can adopt it more fully.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's still some. I know, Walter, you probably want to move to the next subject, but I think on this, there's one quite important, which is that actually there is a cultural change that's coming from legacy infrastructures to cloud infrastructures, and how you interact with those services, and what your role is as a customer, as opposed to in the old days, it was much more, well, I'm going to build my infrastructure, I'm going to manage my infrastructure, I'm going to update it and innovate it. Actually, that is now outsourced, and you need to have a new view, and the roles within a business, you need to realize where the importance is inside of a business with your tech teams. Your tech teams are deciphering your business challenges and understanding the innovation within AWS and the cloud platforms, and how that's right. They don't need to build it. They don't need to be a master of building it and managing it. They need to be a master of using it and applying it to business problems. That change is still, there's a lot of legacy that's stuck in an old world, thinking I need another accreditation, I need to have the skills to build this.
Yeah.
Frankly, they don't.
Yeah, and maybe another example, and then we'll leave it to you, Walter, is, well, the amount of customers that we've been talking to about DevOps way of working is also increasing quite hardly. And I see a lot of customers really underestimate what the impact is of a change of working to align with business objective, which you just mentioned, Marty. Some customers still think, okay, I'm going to buy a tool, or I don't know, a software solution to do
1 kilo of DevOps, please.
Yeah, 1 kilo of DevOps, and maybe you guys can help us implement it and be sure that it's secure, and then we are going to rock it. But I don't think that's going to work like that. So it's much more, I don't know, not only technology but also people and process. And I think an interesting phase where we are in. I also see two types of customers. There are customers that really adopt that and try to constantly improve that, and customers that are still in the beginning of that journey. So interesting times. Sorry, Walter.
Yeah, it is interesting time, and I think that's really important to understand that there will always be customers who are at the beginning of that journey. I'm closely involved in DevOps Days organizations, and I've been to a number of DevOps Days, and every time I'm amazed at how there are 400 or 500 people who this is their first interaction with a conference about DevOps, and like this stuff was thought up 2009, 2010, around that time, and still 10 years later, this is their first interaction with it, and for me, that's it's quite interesting. Moving on, an interesting article from it's only mildly related to our area, but I thought it was a little bit funny. Where there's a lawsuit in China because turns out there's a company who has a trademark on the term AWS in China. So now there was a lawsuit, and that company actually won. So AWS cannot use its name and logo or its abbreviation and logo in China for the time being. Of course, they're legislating a bit more to see if they can overturn it, but it's interesting because good luck to the people who want to type over this URL, by the way. Maybe put it in the in the comments. Let me see. That would be easier, Walter. Yeah, it's an interesting article, caught my attention because it's I think partly a latest a strike in this ongoing push between the Western world and China, where I won't allow you to play with my marbles, so now you cannot. It keeps going back and forth, and it's an interesting place because a giant like Amazon is now blocked from something that is relatively simple and unimpactful, a logo and an abbreviation, but it's a giant headache on a business level, because what are you going to do if you cannot use the logo that you're using worldwide everywhere for quite a big market? It's an interesting, for me at least, an interesting thing to see. But then at the same time, this is going back and forth. So this morning, I saw that US wants to put a limitation on, or they put Xiaomi on the blacklist of brands in the US, which is also super annoying because Xiaomi actually makes really good quality products, and so this keeps going back and forth.
So the score now is 12-12 or something.
Yeah, seriously.
What I think. I was reading that article, and I'm interested. What went wrong? Something went wrong in the past that AWS now in this situation. Should it be somebody forgot to register something, or is it a growing pain out of the past?
What I could see is that that company actually registered their trademark in 2002, and Amazon only started publicly using their stuff in 2004. Yeah. So they were technically first.
Okay. Well, so, then they're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong, but it's also
Wasn't it the same with Apple? Didn't Apple have a guy over there that was making iPhone cases, and he used the word iPhone and registered iPhone in China, and they couldn't use that.
It's a giant headache. Before we had Olendita acquired by HeleCloud, we were doing business in Asia, and thinking about having to somehow trademark and register your brand in either a few key places or in all the places is ridiculous. And a company the size of AWS is obviously a very different story. But we were a very small business at the time. We were like 5 people, and then having to deal with this stuff, we in the end we decided to just not deal with it and take the random gamble that nobody would register all in data in those countries, and then come after us to steal our business. Okay, that's a gamble we're willing to take, because we were not building a giant company, but it's a real business. It's a real headache in today's business climate, and
there is a bit of irony in it that the week that AWS stops Parlor from doing business, they get stopped from doing business.
Yeah,
sort of irony in that, I think.
Yeah.
Is it a coincidence or?
No.
You really start to question all of that stuff, coincidences. I don't know. Let's not get.
There's not many
Be careful.
Successful in China, though, as there is. I mean, I think Apple and Microsoft are probably a couple of the only ones that I'm aware of that have been successful. But if you look at the other ones, I don't think many organizations have actually.
So China has had a rule until very recently that if you were wanting to do business in China, you had to be a joint venture with a Chinese company, which stopped many companies. But I believe Tesla was the. Sorry?
I think you also had to share intellectual property with that.
Quite likely, yeah.
I think the cloud market in China is currently dominated by Chinese companies. So you could also say, okay, what's the opportunity anyway? But because I think you have HeleCloud, you have probably Huawei, if I pronounce it correctly.
Yeah.
Then probably China Telecom and some other companies. So yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting, right? Because that market is so big that if you look at HeleCloud, they're growing really big, top 5 global players by just doing business in China and with Chinese companies outside of China. Yep. And so that becomes quite an interesting competitive game that by the time they want to go outside of China and market to Western businesses, they already have the capital and the spending power and all of that stuff to actually rival and stand a chance to rival an Amazon.
It's the same with Huawei. Their home market is, maybe not anymore, but it used to be much bigger than their market abroad. So
It's those types of things, though, I think stifle innovation, and I think that's the one. I think out of all the things we talked about, like one of the things, where the big get to control what somebody else does, we need to be careful that we don't stifle innovation and kill it. Because that's one of the challenges with large organizations, and also the bureaucracy of getting into business. I mean, try to do a Facebook today. Could you imagine how could you scale up a Facebook that had, you have to have thousands of people, auditing the content? Well, you just couldn't do it anymore. I don't think you'd be able to even contemplate starting that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's this, as you said in the beginning, this world is moving to a place where these tech companies have such a big position and such an advantage position already. It's becoming really difficult to break into that market, and I'm really curious to see where that cloud market goes in the next 5 to 10 years in that respect.
Winner take all. But the thing that impresses me about AWS, I've always been impressed with Apple, that they've remained feeling like a young company, even though they're a very large company. They continue to be, they feel agile. And that is really difficult to do as a large organization, because you get quite often bound in processes. But they've done a good job of doing that.
Very strong culture.
Yeah.
And I think it's important in building a large company that you have a strong culture, because you need some way to keep that speed of business, because otherwise you're going to lose that the speed of innovation, and that's deadly to a company. I think Microsoft was in that space for a while, and it really took invigorating for them to get to the place where they are now, back to a place of fast innovation.
Yeah.
We have reached 9:30. I know that you guys have some other things to get to, so I'll keep it short. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. And for everyone else, see you again next week when we'll have different guests and talk about different things. And we'll keep it going until we exhaust the things that we can talk about. But I don't think that's really a possibility.
Easy peasy. We can always talk about babies if we run out of stuff to talk about. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.